Bradley Cooper is here. Millions know him from his star turn in the Hangover movies or as People magazine's Sexiest Man Alive. But if you pay closer attention, you have seen his talent as an actor this season in David O. Russell's Silver Linings Playbook. It co-stars Jennifer Lawrence. He has been nominated for an Oscar for Best Actor. Here is a look at his performance.
The world will break your heart 10 ways to Sunday, that's guaranteed. And I can't begin to explain that, or the craziness inside myself and everybody else, but guess what? Sunday's my favorite day again. I think of everything everyone did for me, and I feel like a very lucky guy. This is what I learned in the hospital. You have to do everything you can. You have to work your hardest. And if you do, if you stay positive, you have a shot at a silver lining.
I am pleased to have my friend here who's having a remarkable life. This is a great moment, a good moment to be because of how hard you've worked, because of how you've selected things that will give you a chance to do the things you want, and how Hangover gave you an opportunity to combine those kinds of movies with these kinds of movies.
I mean, I couldn't have strategized it better. I mean, without ever thinking in those terms. But you're right. Yeah. No, it's incredible, Charlie. It's incredible, you know, and it is all from the origin of the Hangover. It really is, which allowed, you know, relativity to allow me to do Limitless, and then because that was successful, then David O. Russell and Harvey Weinstein, you know, Pat Solitano opened up.
Yeah. He's the character you play. So how did they come to you, and what did they say about Pat Solitano, and how much of a conversation took place before you began to make the movie?
This was an interesting one because David O. Russell sent me the script during the summer, but not for any other reason than we were having a dialogue in general and about another movie that didn't happen. And this movie was already cast. He said, but I want to know what you think of it. He's always somebody who's very curious. I find that great directors always want everybody's opinion in general, which I think is a good thing to do anyway. And so I read it and we talked about it, and then that was it. And I was shooting another movie in Schenectady, New York with Ryan Gosling, and I get a call from him about a month before they were to start principal photography, and he said, you know, something happened and the actor has fallen out, and I really want you to play Pat. It wasn't Pat Solitano at the time. The character's name was different. And I just thought, I went back and I remember thinking about that script, and I thought, well, this is what you dream of. This is what you dream of when you're a kid watching movies and you see these characters and you think, that would be just...
Why did you say that? Why is this a character you dream of?
So many reasons. Well, maybe how much he's different from me, or how much I have to look into myself to find the connections to him. I mean, first of all, if he was sitting here, right, God knows what would come out of his mouth, because he has no filter. Yeah. And his emotions are right just under the surface. And he's also fascinating because neurologically, it's a very unique pathway, the way that he processes information, and that's what, you know, causes him to have manic episodes, and what we could define as bipolar, being manic depressive.
Yeah, let's talk about who he is now. He's just come out of being inside for 18 months or so. Yeah. You know, and he's manic depressive. Yeah, well, bipolar. Bipolar, so not just manic.
Yeah. He's diagnosed bipolar, which he never knew. I mean, this is a guy who's 35 years old, and he did a plea bargain to go to the mental institution so he wouldn't serve time, because he beat the hell out of this guy. Right. And while he was in there, the doctors diagnosed him as being bipolar, and they wanted him to start medication. And he is and get a strategy to how to live his life, and he just wants none of it. He wants no help. So we're meeting this guy who's in denial of the fact that he needs help. And he's living at home. He's got no car. He's got no cell phone. They won't allow him to have it. He's got no income. He's not allowed to get his job back. And his wife, who he thinks is going to be the savior, has a 500-yard restraining order out against him. But this guy...
She wants no part of it.
No. But this guy, Pat Solitano, the beautiful thing about him is he couldn't be happier. You know, he's in this manic delusion that's going to fall at some point, but he really thinks that he's got it together.
His father is Robert De Niro, who's a, you know, amazing Eagles fan.
Yeah, the family, like my family, and many Philadelphia families. Right. Yeah,
Where are you from, Abingdon? Or?
Exactly. Yeah, it's right. Yeah, you're the only guy that knows that. Literally, everybody says, "Yeah, I'm from Abington." That's exactly right. My sister went to Abington High School. Yeah, we grew up, you know, huge Eagles fans, and this is a typical reflection of that. The Solitano family. Actually, in fact, when I say it wasn't his name, because we couldn't get the rights to the name that was in the script, we for about a week tried to get my mother's maiden name as his name, Campano.
Yeah.
And we thought we were going to have it. It would have been Patrick Campano, but that didn't work. So Solitano sounded like Campano, so we went with that, which was kind of nice.
And working with De Niro is always a joy for you.
You know, it's. You know, that's, what can I say? Yeah. You know, when you have, you know, I liken it to, you know, I mean, the relationships that you've had over the years, right? Where you just sit back and think, how did this happen? Yeah. Right? I mean, you just think, how, you know.
I can imagine being friends with somebody like that.
Yeah, yeah, and which you are, you know what I mean? I mean, someone you were a fan of in college or whenever, you know, and then you get to know, and you start interviewing him, and now he's a friend of yours.
That's right.
Yeah, it's like.
I want to take a look at some scenes here and then talk more about Pat. We'll give the audience at home, if you haven't seen, this is a movie getting a lot of attention, a lot of buzz, pre-Oscar, all of that, including Best Actor, and David O. Russell for Best Director. Here it is, a scene in which Pat has a breakdown in the attic. Here it is.
You gotta wake everybody.
I looked over there. I already looked all over there.
I can't get up.
I'm not here.
I'm not calming down. I don't give a who you. I'm not calming down. Anybody can wake up. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not ashamed of it. Let the whole neighborhood wake up. I don't care.
Stop it! Stop it!
No, Mom.
What's going on?
What? Hey, it's my wedding. It's my wedding video. I can't watch a video. No. I can't hear this song in my head. I gotta get this song.
As you were watching that, you said that's sad.
Yeah, it's so sad, yeah. Yeah, you know, certain actors I've talked to have talked about how they learn things from the characters they played, and like in a kind of profound way. And in this movie, more than any other, I really did feel like I kind of got out of the way in the morning and let him come over, and it sounds very sort of actory, but it is how I experienced it, Charlie, that I kind of just walked away and let this guy take over, this guy Pat, and every time, you know, we edited the movie, so every time I see it, I just feel so much empathy for it. It's just, you know, that's his bottom. We're watching this guy at a bottom.
But you believe that he got inside of you, and that's the reason you were able to do this.
I don't know what happened, you know, but I know that when I see that, I'm looking at this guy that I care a lot about, this guy Pat Solitano, and
You care about him because?
Well, because maybe I learned about him. He's a guy. I mean, he's a guy who's just struggling to endure, to maintain, and he just has no help. And it's you know, I know my life, the times where I haven't asked for help, or you know, I try to control everything. It's just not going to work out. And this is him not realizing, but us watching him not being able to work it out.
There was a time in your life in which you've talked to me and others about, in which you were rebellious, prone to addiction, and in a sense, not what you wanted to be.
That's right. Yeah, for sure. You know, and that you could liken that, you know, growing pains, or, you know, becoming a man or becoming an adult. But yeah, there was certainly a time, but I did make a choice for sure, where which was terrifying, where I thought, well, I'm not going to fulfill my potential as a human being. And it really was because my parents, you know, I had such a luxury because of the way I was brought up. My dad worked so hard to give me so many opportunities. And I'm sitting there at 29 years old, and I thought, I'm such a jackass. I'm going to squander this thing. And so, you know, I made a couple decisions and you know, to change my life. So yeah, for sure.
Went to Georgetown, then came to New York.
Yeah, I went to Georgetown undergrad, and then went to the actor studio for grad school.
There's a story that James Lipton told your father or your mother. He's going to do really big things.
Oh yeah.
You know that, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I think he may have said that to my mom. Yeah. I know that for me, my father was always nervous about it. I mean, because think about it. He grew up in North Philly, only got to go to college as a neighborhood practically, and all of a sudden his son wants to be an actor. You know, and Georgetown University was not cheap, you know, and then I took a loan out of the government because I was proud, and I said, Dad, you can't pay for grad school, you know, which he would have done, but I just thought, you know, I would have felt even more guilty with that. So I remember when he saw The Elephant Man, when I did it for my thesis, and I remember so clearly that moment where he looked at me, and I saw him excited at the prospect that maybe his son could make a living as an actor.
Because he saw you doing that?
Yeah, he liked it.
And he knew that
he's a huge cinephile. I mean, he introduced film to me, so he was a lover of acting, the storytelling through acting. So, you know, I guess he saw in that moment, well, you know, I know what he said. He said that, like, I didn't see my son there. You know, I saw the story, and I think he got excited that, you know what, maybe maybe there's a shot.
What is it about the Elephant Man that so grabbed your attention so early?
It was the emotion that it evoked in me. That's what it was, from seeing David Lynch's film. My father would sort of have the... I wanted to emulate my father when I was a kid, always. You know, wanted to wear a trench coat because he wore a trench coat. It was, like, ridiculous. I wore a three-piece suit to elementary school, and my sister would have to beat up the guys who wanted to beat me up because I insisted on dressing like this because my father did. Yeah. So you can imagine how, of course, I was going to soak anything up that he liked. Tom Waits when I was 8 years old, and, you know, and Apocalypse Now, and movies I couldn't understand. But the one thing I did feel was an emotion from them. And The Elephant Man, when I saw when I was 12, just wrecked me. And I lived next to a movie theater, and I started to really become, you know, I wouldn't say addicted, but I mean, the idea of watching this thing and what it did to me emotionally was very satisfying. And I just thought, you know what, I want to do that.
And you did it last summer again.
I did, yeah.
And you're bringing it to Broadway, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, we're working on it. We really hope to. I mean, you know, fingers crossed. But yeah, we're going to try to do it next spring, and yeah, at the Booth Theater, which we'll see. But that's where they did the original.
When you do that, you have to make a limited run because you can't just have an open-ended run.
That's right. Yeah.
So you're bringing in for...
Yeah, but I want to do it in a small theater because I think that's the only place for it to play. It's a very intimate play. So because of that, just financially, you have to do more runs because there's less tickets in order to break even or whatever, you know, for that. So we'll probably do a 16-week run, which is a little bit longer than a normal limited run.
Where do you learn, where do you lean for wisdom? Part of it is your own experience, but what else? Where do you figure out, how do I make sure that I do this in a smart way?
Well, I'm lucky that I'm 38 years old when this had happened, you know, because I do ask questions. And a lot of them go to Robert De Niro. You know, he has, I've gone to him for advice in the past 2 years, many, many times. And the other asset I have is that it is simple for me. I have one objective pretty much, and that is to grow as an actor. I've said this before to you, you know. So how do you do that? You work with the best people. And I just want to work with the best filmmakers and the best actors. Now, the sort of caveat to that is I really want to direct film. But all of a sudden, because of this movie, I have an opportunity maybe for the next who knows how long to work with some pretty sick directors, hopefully.
Right.
So I'm going to soak that up as much as I can, Charlie, and learn as much as I can from the David O. Russells of the world until they stop hiring me. And then I hope to then start making movies.
To absorb everything you can get from them and then make your own movies.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at this. It's back to Pat and this movie, Silver Linings. This is where he's talking to his therapist. Here it is.
Can you talk about something that you did before or after?
Yeah, about a week before the incident, I called the cops, and I told them that my wife and the history guy were plotting against me by embezzling money from the local high school, which wasn't true. It was a delusion. And we later found out from the hospital that's because I'm,
Undiagnosed bipolar.
Yeah. With mood swings and weird thinking brought on by severe stress, which rarely happens, thank God.
So people with bipolar understand they have it. They just don't know when it's coming and what they're going to do.
Certainly, Pat didn't.
Yeah.
He had no idea. And you know, the next moment of that is he talks about how, you know, he's been white knuckling it this whole time and not knowing, and now he's got it. And then the whole thing is he's got a strategy now. I think that we live in an age where, you know, because of social media and because of awareness, you know, first of all, when I was in grammar school, I remember there was a kid in my school, and they just said he was special. You know, there was no semantic connection to autism or bipolar, and you know, there's two schools of thought with that. You know, we never had so many autistic people, or was it just not diagnosed?
Exactly.
You know, there's a dialogue now, but there's a lot of work to be done. I mean, to destigmatize mental illness. I mean, first of all, it's not even treated as, you know, some people talk about mental illness is, you know, you start to treat mental illness, if you liken it to cancer, as a stage 4 cancer. That's when the treatment starts. As opposed to when cancer is detected at stage 1, they can start treating it. But normally, a mental illness is starting to be treated when it's already almost too late. And then you have incidents that occur, that have been occurring, you know, where shootings and... Yeah.
But people don't ask themselves, how am I different? Why am I different?
I'm sure they do. I mean, I did as a kid. I'm sure you did. I mean, you observe, you know, your brain's working in a way. I mean, the thing about the brain is an organ, and you sometimes, you know, like, you know, it could be likened to other organs. I mean, it is something, and we sometimes don't understand what's happening. And when that happens to your heart, if it feels something, you get it treated. You know, you ask questions. And I think it's just learning about verbalizing when we have those feelings so that it can be detected and treated. You know, and I think we don't do that because it's stigmatized. So we think, you know, well, if I say that, if I tell you I have mental problems, you're going to treat me differently. I don't want you to treat me any differently. Exactly. So I'm going to pretend not to. So if we destigmatize it, then I'm going to be more willing to talk to you. And that's the thing that's been happening here.
Right.
We've gone around on these Q&As, and I can't tell you, Charlie, how many people have come up and say, thank you. I suffer from this. I don't think I've ever told anybody. I certainly haven't said it publicly at a Q&A. And just, you know, that's the power of cinema.
I'll tell you what did happen in a particular case of depression and bipolar or not, was people like Mike Wallace.
Yes, that was a huge moment.
It was a huge moment.
Huge moment.
And it was a bit like when Gerald Ford's wife talked about some of the addictions she had. It can happen to them.
And Terry Bradshaw also came and talked about it.
It happened to me.
Yeah.
You know, and for them to talk about it makes people who are feeling the same thing say, I'm not alone. I'm not.
That's right. But now the question is, what do we do? These are certain people that have come out. Now let's get legislation. Let's talk about, you know, politically what we can do in terms of funding and really start to make it easier.
Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh, whew.
Tell me about it.
There was a silver lining in that movie. Oh, she's incredible. She is just, and I'll tell you, you know, being on this awards, you know, this is a very unique thing right now. Right. And, you know, being with her, she's just, man, she's just something special. I love her so much. At 22 years old.
This is a long way from Hunger Games, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, yeah, for sure. And this is the closest to her, I have to say. You know, she's very funny.
Did you know her beforehand?
No, not at all. First time I met her, Charlie.
How do you explain the chemistry then? I mean, it was like you two.
But, you know, that's the way it works.
Yeah.
It's just, it's there, it's not. You know, and the director was very happy that it was there. You know, because
just feel it.
Yeah, it just flows. And then you start to play music together.
And that makes the magic of the movie, though.
Oh,
it's the relationship between the two of you that makes the movie.
It certainly makes the sort of darker parts of the movie, or the things that people don't want to talk about, much more palatable. You know, we're talking about mental illness, but it's you know, packaged in a love story in this movie, which is very smart. You know, it's like a modest proposal. You know,
and it's a love story you think has no chance at the beginning.
Right. That's right. Oh, yeah, you don't see that. They're not going to end on the street kissing.
No way. We're not going to have a Hollywood ending, are we?
Yeah.
Maybe.
And you don't, really. You know, the message of the movie is not, you know, you'll fix it with love. It's, you know, people understanding you. That's the key. And she understands him. The first time he sees her in that, you know, in that dinner, you see he's floored by the fact that he sees that she sees him. You know, the one thing I experience is Pat is, and I've done this. You know, when someone's a little off, even in the street in New York, or wherever, you know, the energy changes. And when Pat walks in a room,
step back.
And she didn't step back. In fact, she came right at him.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, therefore, he responded to that,
Of course. And the fact that she's just gorgeous. Yeah. And you know, and yeah.
There is also this, dancing in this film.
Yeah.
You had to learn to dance the way... You know,
Pat would. Yeah, that's right.
So it was like 2 weeks of intensive lessons.
That's right. And then every moment not shooting up in a third-floor walk-up studio with Jennifer, going over this very bipolar choreographed dance.
Yeah.
And which was great. And, you know, the thing I remember almost most was we shot that dance in 2 days. And, you know, and everybody's watching the dance. And Robert De Niro stood there for 12 hours, 2 days in a row, watching us do this dance. You know, didn't go back to his trailer. You know, stood there. Like Pat Sr.
Yeah. He almost seems like a kind of mentor.
Yeah, he is.
You know, there's something special to come out of this. Because there's this famous scene that took place, and we've talked about this before, and I'll show it again. This is when you were a graduate student at the Actors Studio asking one of your idols a question about acting. Here it is.
How you doing, Mr. De Niro? My name is Bradley Cooper. My question is regarding awakenings. You talked about your research and how you interviewed a lot of patients, people who had different diseases. And there was one mannerism that you had during the interview process when they were asking you when you wanted to go outside the building, go for a walk. And you went like this with your finger, and you sort of made up for it by rubbing your eyebrow.
Right.
And I was wondering, is that something that you would saw people do, sort of try to make up for their tics, or was that something that happened in the moment?
That's a good question.
You got it. Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, right.
What time were we? Where's it?
That's great. All right, let me go back to these other movies. So there's also The Hangover Part 3.
Yeah.
How many of these can there be, and is the answer, as long as I enjoy doing it?
How many of the Hangovers?
Yeah.
It's over.
Is it?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I don't know if the other guys would do anymore.
Right.
I can speak for myself. You know, I would probably do more, but I think it does feel like it's you know, a Todd Phillips.
Did you see it when you first read it?
I saw that it was very funny, and I thought that it was I'd never seen a structure like that. I love the idea of a forgotten night, and the whole movie is the next day.
There's also The Place Beyond the Pines.
Yes. It has incredible experience, and I really do think, and I was talking to my friend the other day who did a movie back-to-back and about how sometimes that's almost the best preparation. I did this movie right before Silver Linings Playbook, and, you know, it's like an instrument or a sport. You know, you're all oiled up, and I learned a lot on that movie.
How much preparation, we often ask this factors, but how you prepare, people prepare differently. Do you simply want to deeply immerse yourself in as much as you can find?
Yes, that's accurate. Yeah, absolutely. And it means different things for different projects, but it's whatever you can do to get to where James Cagney says, where say what you mean and mean what you say. Because if you're...
Say what you mean and mean what you say.
Yeah, which basically means don't act.
Right.
You know, be here, talk to you. And let me tell you something. If you haven't done the work and you show up on set opposite Robert De Niro and you're not in a place where you can do that, oh, brother. That's a very scary, scary place.
When did you feel confident about that? I mean,
well, for Limitless, I worked so hard to make sure. You know, it's like overstudying, you know. But here's the trick, though. The trick is you can do all that, but if you don't let it all go and relax, it's going to be worthless. So that's the sort of odd, you know, it's such a hard thing to talk about. Because you really then have to, because it's almost, what am I saying? I'm saying you have to not act, but I'm an actor, so what am I saying? You know, what does that even mean? When I'm saying, well, all you do is try not to act, you know, and then the idea of throwing everything away. But, it, you know, it's very much like sports. I mean, Michael Jordan isn't doing, you know, practicing his dribbling when he's playing a game. You know, he's doing something else. He's not practicing free throws in the middle of a game. You know,
But I'll tell you something about Michael Jordan and all the greats I have ever known or interviewed here. They are always the guys who work the hardest.
Yeah, I think that's very true for acting as well.
Silver Lining is a movie that's getting a lot of attention, and he has created a wonderful character. And I'm always honored when he comes and takes a few minutes to sit at this table, so thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Back in a moment. Stay with us.